The domed chamber of the Galactic Federation Council glittered under artificial starlight, its curved walls displaying holograms of member worlds in perfect formation. Earth's projection flickered dimly at the edge, smaller than the others, its blue-green surface dwarfed by the gleaming megastructures of Zephyrian Hive, cities, or the Vorak's obsidian orbital rings. Ambassador Elias Carter stood alone on the speaker's platform, his polished dress shoes clicking against the alien alloy floor. Around him, delegates from 100 species murmured in their native tongues, their amusement palpable even through translation implants. High Chancellor Vexler of the Zephyrian Dominion leaned forward on his segmented throne, chitinous fingers tapping a slow, dismissive rhythm against the armrest. "Your petition is noted, Ambassador Carter," he said, his voice a dry rasp. "But the Federation has no resources to spare for a backwater system." Elias kept his expression neutral, though his knuckles whitened around the datapad in his hand. "With respect, High Chancellor, the Vorak swarm has already consumed 7 frontier colonies. Earth is next in their path." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. Councillor Dralis of the Vorak hierarchy, no relation to the mindless swarm, as he often reminded everyone, leaned back in his floating chair, his frilled neck, flaps fluttering in amusement. "Your fleets are toys," he sneered, gesturing to the hologram of Earth's pitiful orbital defenses. "Your weapons are relics. The swarm will roll over your world like a tide over sand." Elias didn't flinch. "We've analyzed the swarm's tactics given proper support. We can..." "Enough." Vexler raised a clawed hand. "The Council's decision is unanimous. Earth's defense is not a Federation priority." The chamber's ambient lighting shifted, casting Elias in cold blue shadow, as the other delegates turned their attention to more pressing matters. Trade disputes between the Thalaxian and Kriex, a new mining treaty in the Andromeda sector. Earth's hologram flickered once more, then dimmed entirely. Elias took a slow breath. "You're making a mistake," Dralis snorted, his frills flushing violet with derision. "When the swarm comes, human, pray they kill you quickly. Their digestion process is unpleasant." The chamber erupted in chuckles. Elias didn't react. He simply tapped a command into his data pad, shutting off the holographic feed from Earth. The projection winked out, leaving an empty space among the glittering worlds. As he turned to leave, a junior aide, a young Thalaxian with bioluminescent markings, scuttled up to him. "Ambassador, your shuttle is ready," she whispered, her antennae twitching nervously. Elias nodded. "Thank you." He paused at the chamber's arched exit, glancing back at the assembled delegates. None of them were watching. None of them cared. Vexler was already deep in conversation with a Cerelian diplomat, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "Honestly," the High Chancellor muttered, just loud enough for Elias to hear, "what could a species that still uses chemical propulsion possibly contribute?" Elias allowed himself a small private smile as the doors hissed shut behind him. The aide hesitated. "Ambassador, what will you do now?" He handed her the data. "Pad, send this to Earth Command. Priority encryption." The Thalaxian blinked at the screen, then up at Elias. "But the Council refused you. The swarm will..." Elias adjusted his tie, his expression unreadable. "Let them come." Outside, the spires of Cententrum, they glittered against the void, a monument to the Federation's arrogance. Somewhere beyond those stars, the Vorak swarm was moving, and Earth was waiting. The orbital shipyard hung in the silent void above Mars, like a sleeping dragon coiled around its prey. From the observation deck of the USN Vigilance, Admiral Lisa Hayes watched the skeletal frames of half-built warships pulse with dormant energy. The Sol Defense Grid wasn't just a project. It was a decades-long secret buried under layers of bureaucracy and false reports. Dr. Raj Patel floated beside her, his dark eyes reflecting the glow of holographic schematics. "They still think we're playing catch." "Up," he said, tapping a command into his wrist display. The holograms shifted, revealing rows of cloaked defense platforms, hidden in the asteroid belt. Federation sensors can't even see half of what we've built. Hayes didn't smile. She couldn't afford to. Not yet. Status on the palace core. Operational and waiting, Patel replied. Fully integrated with the grid. The A's been running simulations for 3 years straight. It knows every possible angle of attack. A flicker of movement caught Hayes' eye. On the far side of the shipyard, a massive rail. Cannon slid silently into position, its barrel humming with barely contained power. And the Vorak? Patel's grin was sharp. Oh, they'll come. Swarms always do. They'll see our outdated orbital stations, our pathetic fleet, and they'll think it's an easy feast. He zoomed in on a cluster of stealth satellites near Neptune. But the moment they cross the line, Pallas wakes up, and so does the rest of the grid. Hayes exhaled slowly, her breath fogging the reinforced glass. Any chance the Federation catches on before then? None. Patel's voice was firm. We've let their scouts accidentally scan our old defense grids. They think our best tech is 50 years behind. Even the Superians bought it. A chime sounded from Hayes' wristcom. She tapped it, and Captain Ryan Blake's face flickered into view. Admiral, the Defiance is prepped and ready. Railguns at standby, just waiting for the word. Hayes nodded. Hold position, Captain. Let them come to us. Blake's grin was wolfish, with pleasure. The transmission cut out, leaving Hayes alone with Patel and the silent hum of the shipyard. She turned back to the holograms, watching as Pallas highlighted potential attack vectors in red. You're sure the AI can handle it? Patel chuckled. Lisa, Pallas was designed by the same team that cracked quantum entanglement comms. It doesn't just handle things, it calculates outcomes before they happen. He pointed to a cluster of dots near Jupiter. See those? Cloaked drone carriers. Each one carries enough firepower to glass a continent, and the Vorak won't see them until it's too late. Hayes finally allowed herself a small, cold smile. Good. Below them, the skeletal frames of the warships began to stir. Panels slid open, revealing rows of hypersonic missiles. Energy conduits pulsed to life, feeding power to weapons the Federation had no idea existed. Patel crossed his arms. They think we're weak. Let them. Hayes tightened her grip on the data, pad in her hand, watching as the final activation codes loaded onto the screen. Activation protocol is ready. She looked up, her gaze fixed on the distant glimmer of Earth. They'll see. The shipyard hummed louder, a sleeping giant beginning to wake. Somewhere in the void beyond, the Vorak swarm was coming, and humanity was ready. The void between Jupiter and Mars rippled like disturbed water. 1,000 Vorak bio ships tore into real space, their organic hulls glistening with corrosive slime. Spore cannons pulsed along their flanks, ready to vomit death upon whatever pathetic defenses Earth had scraped together. On the bridge of the Hive's maw, Overlord Kraxan flexed his clawed hands. His chitinous armor clicked in satisfaction as sensor feeds displayed Sol's meager orbital platforms. Pathetic, he hissed, his voice a wet rasp through the comms. No fleet, no shields, just empty space, and a few tin cans pretending to be warships. A subordinate, its carapace streaked with battle scars, chittered nervously. Overlord, our scouts detected energy signatures near the 4th planet. Faint, but Kraxan backhanded the creature without looking. Silence, the Superians cowered before us. The Sorelians begged. These humans will be no different. He leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting the blue marble of Earth. Open fleet, wide channels. 1,000 bioships thrummed as Kraxan's voice snarled through their neural networks. Burn their cities, shatter their bones, feast on their flesh until their world is bare. The swarm shrieked in unison, a chorus of clicking mandibles and guttural roars. 3 million kilometers away, hidden in the shadow of a drifting asteroid, the Superian scout ship Silent Dagger powered down its engines. Captain Veltara adjusted her ocular implants, zooming in on the swarm's advance. Her 4 hands trembled as she input commands. Record everything, she ordered her crew. The Federation will want to see how quickly the humans fall. A junior officer, his scales dull with fear, pointed at the sensor display. Captain, the human orbital platforms. They're not activating. Veltara frowned. What? The platforms, small boxy stations that the Federation had mocked as children's toys, remained dark. No weapons powered up, no fighters launched. Earth's defense fleet, what little of it existed, didn't even move from its docks. And then she saw it. A flicker on the edge of her scanners. Something big near Neptune just for a second. A glitch, maybe. But when she looked again, there was nothing. Captain, the officer whispered, the swarm is entering high orbit. The humans should be... wait. Veltara's frills stiffened. The human cities below weren't panicking. No sirens, no evacuations, just calm. And then her blood ran cold on the surface. In the heart of their military command centers, the humans were smiling. Kraxan's flagship shuddered as it took position above Earth's northern hemisphere. Target their largest population center, he ordered. Let them see what comes for them. The hive's Moore's primary spore cannon swiveled, its fleshy barrel distending as it charged. The weapon glowed a sickly green, ready to vomit a cloud of acid that would melt steel and flesh alike. Then the comms crackled, a human voice, calm and amused. "Hey, Bug!" Kraxan froze. "What?" "You should have knocked." The sensors screamed from the dark side of the moon. 100 silo doors hissed open. Railgun batteries the size of skyscrapers emerged, their barrels humming with pent-up energy. Around Mars, cloaking fields flickered and died, revealing the real human fleet. Dreadnoughts with hulls blacker than void. Their prow, mounted lances already locking onto the swarm. And then, from the depths of Neptune's orbit, something awoke. A voice, smooth and synthetic, echoed across every human channel. Sol Defense Grid online, hostiles detected. Lethal response, authorized. Kraxan's mandibles dropped open. What? The first railgun round tore through his flagship's hull like paper. Veltara's hands flew across her console as the silent dagger's sensors overloaded. "By the void!" she screamed. Where did those ships come from? The human dreadnoughts moved like ghosts. One moment they were there, the next they'd vanished, only to reappear behind the swarm's lines, their weapons firing relentlessly. Plasma lances sliced through bio, ships like knives through rotten fruit. Entire Vorak vessels detonated as hypersonic slugs punched through their cores. And then the real horror began from Earth's surface. A single missile streaked upward. It wasn't like the others. No fiery exhaust, no roar of engines, just a black spear arcing silently into the void. It struck a Vorak carrier for half a second. Nothing happened. Then space itself twisted. The carrier imploded, crushed into a singularity the size of a marble. Nearby bioships were yanked, screaming into the gravitational maelstrom, their hulls tearing apart like wet parchment. Kraxan's voice, now raw with terror, shrieked across the swarm's comms. "What are you?" The human response came from 100 ships at once. "Earth, and you should have stayed away." Veltara couldn't breathe. The Silent Dagger's crew stared in mute horror as the Vorak swarm, the same force that had devoured a dozen Federation worlds, was annihilated in minutes. The junior officer vomited. They let the swarm come. Veltara's frills lay flat against her skull. "No," she whispered. "They baited them." On the view screen, the last of the bio, ships exploded in a silent fireball. The human dreadnoughts, their black hulls unmarked, drifted calmly back into formation. And then, as if nothing had happened, they vanished again. The Sol system was quiet once more, but the galaxy would never forget what it had just witnessed. The Vorak swarm descended upon Sol like a tidal wave of chitin and teeth. Bioships the size of cities oozed through the void, their spore cannons pulsing with hungry energy. Kraxan's flagship led the charge, its organic hull bristling with weaponized tendrils. The Overlord's laughter echoed through the comms of every human outpost. "Pathetic," Kraxan sneered, mandibles clicking. No orbital defenses, no fleet, just silence. His bridge crew chittered in agreement, their compound eyes scanning the empty space around Earth. Begin the feast, level their cities, leave nothing but a single calm voice cut through the transmission. Hostiles detected. Every Vorak bioship shuddered as their sensors screamed to life. Lunar silos hissed open. Neptune's orbit flickered like a mirage, and then the sky ignited. Rail, cannons mounted on cloaked platforms around Mars roared to life. Hypersonic slugs tore through the lead bioship, reducing it to splattered ichor before Kraxan could blink. The Defiance, hidden beneath a stealth field until now, decloaked directly above the swarm's flank. Captain Ryan Blake leaned back in his chair, boots propped on the console as his gunners locked on. "All right, kids," Blake drawled. "Time to educate some bugs." The Defiance's railguns spun up with a whine that vibrated through the hull. A dozen Vorak escorts exploded before they could turn. On Earth's moon, Pallas, the sole defense grid's AI core, coolly assessed the battlefield. Her voice echoed through every human ship, every defense platform, every soldier's helmet. Lethal response authorized, priority targets marked. Neptune's orbit shattered as 50 cloaked dreadnoughts revealed themselves, their plasma lances already charging. The Vorak swarm, so confident moments ago, scrambled in panic. Bioships collided as they tried to flee, their formations collapsing into chaos. Kraxan's flagship banked hard, evading a black hole warhead that swallowed 3 of his escorts whole. "What is this?" he roared, claws digging into his command throne. Where did they? A human fighter, sleek and black, shot past his viewport so fast it left afterimages. Then another, then 20 more. They moved like ghosts, dodging spore fire with impossible precision. "Overlord," his sensor officer shrieked. "Their weapons. They're targeting our nerve clusters. They know our biology." Blake's voice crackled over an open channel. "Yeah, we've been studying you. Funny thing about primitive species, we pay attention." The Defiance's railguns fired again. Kraxan's left flank disintegrated. On Mars, Admiral Lisa Hayes watched the carnage unfold on her holodisplay. Dr. Patel stood beside her, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. "Told you they'd walk right into it," Patel said. Hayes didn't smile, not yet. Pallas, status on the grid's primary weapon, charging complete, awaiting final authorization. Hayes tapped her comm. "Blake, clear the firing lane." The Defiance banked hard, peeling away from the swarm's remnants. The Vorak ships, sensing an opening, surged forward, just as Pallas unleashed the grid's masterpiece. A beam of pure gravitational distortion lanced out from a hidden platform near Jupiter. It struck Kraxan's flagship dead center. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the Vorak Overlord's ship imploded, crushed into a singularity the size of a marble. The remaining bioships flailed, their hive mind shrieking in terror. Kraxan's final transmission was a howl of disbelief. "What are you?" Hayes finally let herself smile. "Earth, and you should have stayed away." The Soul Defense Grid wasn't just a weapon, it was a message, and the galaxy was listening. The holographic displays in the Federation Council chamber flickered wildly as the first shockwaves of battle reached Cententrum. Fey High Chancellor Vexler's chitinous fingers froze mid-gesture, his compound eyes reflecting the impossible data streaming across the screens. "Impossible," Councillor Dralis hissed, his frilled neck flattening against his scaled shoulders. "Those energy signatures, no species has weaponry that advanced." Ambassador Elias Carter leaned back in his chair, the only human in the room not staring at the displays. He took a slow sip from his coffee mug, real earth coffee brewed strong enough to strip paint. The steam curled upward as explosions lit up the holograms. Vexelar whirled on him. "What trick is this? Those can't be human ships." Elias didn't look up. Then who else would be defending Sol Chancellor? The chamber's massive central display zoomed in on the battle. Bioships of the Vorak swarm shattered like glass under precise railgun fire. Plasma lances from hidden lunar platforms carved through entire squadrons before the aliens could react. And then there were the dreadnoughts, sleek, black, and utterly silent as they emerged from behind Neptune's orbit. Dralis's claws dug into the armrests of his chair. Those vessels, their energy readings match Federation heavy cruisers, but their maneuverability should be impossible. Elias finished for him. He set down his mug with a soft clink. You see, counselors, humanity has a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. The display flickered again as a new wave of human fighters engaged. They moved unlike any ships the Federation had ever recorded, darting between swarm vessels at speeds that should have liquefied their crews. Vexlor's antennae twitched violently. Your inertial dampeners, how? Elias smiled. We didn't invent them, we improved them. A new alert blared across the chamber. The tactical overlay showed the swarm's flagship, a massive pulsating high vessel, attempting to retreat. Before it could enter warp, a dozen human signatures appeared around it. Are those? Dralis began. Black hole warheads, Elias confirmed. Experimental, of course. We weren't entirely sure they'd work. The chamber fell silent as the display showed the flagship collapsing inward, its organic hull twisting like paper in a fire. The holographic feed cut to static for 3 full seconds before resetting. Vexor's voice came out strangled. You let them come. Elias stood, straightening his jacket. The sole defense grid needed field testing, and frankly, counselors, after your lack of faith in humanity's capabilities, we thought a demonstration might be educational. Dralis's frills had turned a sickly pale green. You used the Vorak swarm as target practice. Outside the chamber windows, the distant stars seemed to pulse in time with the explosions, still lighting up the holograms. Elias walked to the display, tapping a command into his wristpad. The view zoomed out to show the entire Sol system and the hundreds of human defense platforms now glowing red across tactical scans. Let me be clear, Elias said, his voice calm but edged with steel. Earth didn't survive 5 world wars by begging for protection. We survived by making sure no one dared attack us twice. A new transmission crackled through the chamber's speakers. Kraxan's voice distorted with panic. What are you? The human admiral's reply came through crisp and clear. Earth, and you should have stayed away. The line went dead. On the display, the last Vorak bioship disintegrated under a concentrated barrage from 6 different human vessels. Vexor slowly sank into his chair. His mandibles worked silently for a moment before he managed. Your terms. Elias tapped his wristpad again. The holograms shifted to show Earth's flag, blue, green, and unmistakably human, projected as the Federation sigil. Now, he said, let's talk about your defenses. The chamber doors hissed open behind him. A dozen human officers in black uniforms entered, each carrying data pads. Their boots echoed on the polished floor. Dralis finally found his voice. You planned this from the beginning. Elias didn't deny it. He simply picked up his coffee mug and took another sip as his officers spread out through the chamber. The last of the battle displays faded, leaving only Earth's flag glowing gold against the stars. Somewhere in the silence, a Federation aide whispered, they were never weak. Elias heard it. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. Kraxazan's command ship shuddered as another volley of human railgun fire tore through its organic armor. The Vorak overlord clutched the pulsing control nodes of his biomechanical throne, his chitinous plates oozing green ichor from stress. Across the bridge, his brood siblings scrambled between fleshy consoles, their clicking mandibles betraying panic for the first time in their species' history. Report, Kraxan bellowed, his voice vibrating through the ship's neural network. A tactical officer's frills flattened in submission. Overlord, we've lost 70% of the swarm, the humans, their weapons. A massive impact rocked the flagship. The view screen flickered, showing the USN Defiance spinning through the void, its railguns glowing white, hot from continuous fire. Behind it, a dozen more human warships decloaked, their sleek silver hulls marked with the crimson sigil of Sol Defense Command. Kraxazan's claws dug into his throne. This wasn't warfare, this was extermination. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Ryan Blake watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The Vorak swarm, once a galaxy-wide terror, now writhed in its death throes. His comms officer turned, grinning. "Admiral Hayes on the line, sir." Hayes' face appeared on the main screen, her expression calm, but her eyes burning with vindication. "Captain Pallas confirms the swarm's command structure is collapsing. Time to end this." Blake nodded. "Bring the Titan's fist online." Deep in the asteroid belt, a massive cylindrical weapon hummed to life, built into the hollowed-out core of Ceres. The Titan's fist was humanity's final answer to galactic threats. Its magnetic coils charged, compressing a singularity core to critical mass. Aboard the Federation scout ship Observer, Captain Veltara watched in horror as her sensors screamed warnings. By the first hive, they're not just killing the swarm, they're erasing them. Kraxan's flagship lurched again. The view screen flickered, then displayed a human transmission. Admiral Hayes, her uniform crisp, her voice icy. "Vorak Overlord Kraxan, you have 1 minute to surrender." The Overlord's mandibles spread in a defiant hiss. "You think this changes anything? Soft skin. The swarm has consumed 1,000 species. We will..." Hayes cut him off. 30 seconds. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Kraxazan hesitated, then snarled an order. "All remaining ships converge on the human homeworld. Burn it to firing solution locked." Pallas announced aboard the Defiance. Blake took a deep breath. Fire, space twisted. A pinpoint of darkness appeared between the human fleet and the Vorak armada. Then it expanded. The black hole warhead detonated with silent, terrible grace. Vorak bioships screamed as they were torn apart atom by atom, their organic hulls unraveling like string in a hurricane. Kraxazan's flagship shuddered, its outer layers peeling away into the void. On the bridge, the Overlord clutched at his throne as the artificial gravity failed. "Impossible!" he roared. "What are you?" Hayes' face appeared one last time on the disintegrating view screen. "Earth, and you should have stayed away." The singularity collapsed inward, then exploded outward in a pulse of gamma radiation. When the light faded, nothing remained of the Vorak swarm but scattered atoms, and the echoes of their final terrified clicks. Aboard the Observer, Veltara's 4 hands trembled as she input the final sensor logs. The Zeperian captain had witnessed genocides before, but this was precision. This was calculation. This was a message. She opened a channel to Cententrum, Faithy, her voice uncharacteristically shaky. "High Chancellor, the humans. They didn't just defeat the swarm, they annihilated it without a single casualty." Silence. Then from the depths of the Federation capital, Vexlor's whispered reply, "Gods help us all." On Lunar Command, Admiral Hayes turned away from the tactical display. The Sol system was secure. The grid had performed beyond expectations. And now she allowed herself a small, grim smile. Now the real work began. The chamber doors hissed open, revealing a Federation Council in disarray. The holographic displays that once showed Earth as a dim, insignificant speck now flickered with real-time footage of the Sol defense grid in action. Vorak bioships reduced to floating debris, human dreadnoughts prowling the system like wolves. Ambassador Elias Carter strode in, his polished shoes clicking against the polished floor. The murmurs died instantly. High Chancellor Vexler's chitinous plates quivered, his usual regal composure shattered. Councillor Dralis, who had sneered at humanity's weakness mere hours ago, now clutched the edge of his floating podium, his frills flushed a sickly grey. "You," Vexlor managed, his voice hoarse. "You let them come." Carter didn't bother hiding his smirk. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a slim datapad, tossing it onto the central display. The Federation seal dissolved, replaced by Earth's flag, gold and blue, glowing brighter than any of their member worlds. Correction, Carter said. We invited them. Dralis' claws scraped against the podium. You used us. Used the swarm as a demonstration. Call it a live fire exercise. Carter tapped the datapad. The footage zoomed in on the USN Defiance carving through the heart of Craxan's flagship, railgun fire turning organic armor to vapor. We've been building the Sol defense grid for 30 years, cloaked shipyards, AI-controlled platforms, black hole warheads, all hidden, because we knew the Federation would never take us seriously until we made you. Vexler's antennae twitched. You could have shared this technology and let you bury it in bureaucracy. Carter snorted. No, we needed you to see what happens when someone threatens Earth. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a lethal calm. Now, let's talk about your defenses. Silence. The other delegates exchanged glances, their postures tense. A Jellian representative, her bioluminescent stripes pulsing nervously, finally spoke. What do you want? Carter straightened his tie. 3 things first. Earth's immediate ascension to the Federation's Security Council. No votes, no debates. Vexler bristled. That's unprecedented. So was watching a species you called primitive wipe out the Vorax swarm in 6 hours. Carter's smile didn't reach his eyes. Second, full access to Federation slipstream corridors, no tolls, no inspections. Dralis hissed. You expect us to let your warships roam freely? They already do, Carter said. The Defiance, it's not the only one with cloaking tech. The chamber erupted into panicked whispers. Carter let them stew before raising a hand. Third, and this is non-negotiable, you hand over every scrap of intel on the Vorax remaining hive worlds. Vexler's mandibles clicked. Why? Because Admiral Hayes wants to finish the job. Carter's voice was ice. And we don't leave threats alive. The silence this time was absolute. Even the floating holograms seemed to dim. Finally, Vexler bowed his head, his carapace creaking with emotion. The Council accepts your terms. Carter nodded. Smart choice. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and one more thing. He glanced back, his expression unreadable. From now on, you call it Fortress Sol, not Earth, not Terra. Fortress Sol. The doors slid shut behind him, leaving the Federation to stare at the footage. Still playing, human fighters dancing through the wreckage, their engines burning brighter than the stars. The Sol system had a new name that day, Fortress Earth.